Supply and demand, a 15-year drought and the strain on Arizona's water resources.
It's like your savings account at home. If you're out of a job for a while, it works for a bit to rely on your savings, but you're not gonna live the rest of your life off your savings.
Plus, the legislature sends its budget to the governor, but it narrows the funding for district-sponsored charter schools.
It should be that we're not working against each other. It shouldn't be that we're politicizing these matters. We really ought to enrich those opportunities.
How will schools respond? This is Arizona Week. Closing the water supply gap in Arizona, the theme of this year's water conference hosted by the Water Resources Research Center at the University of Arizona. Central Arizona Project draws water from the Colorado River and then distributes it to Maricopa, Pima, and Pinal counties. On Tuesday, I sat down with Thomas McCann, the Assistant General Manager of CAP.
We've been in drought for, this is the 15th year now, since about 2000 that it started. And we've been able to get through all of that. In fact, it's the lowest 14 years on record since the records started being kept in 1906. So it's been dry. But we haven't had any reductions in deliveries in the lower basin because we've got reservoirs. And that's what we've been drawing on for these past 14 years. Lake Mead in that period has dropped about 100 feet in elevation. Which you think that's something to be concerned about, and it doesn't have another 100 feet really to drop. I mean, if it drops another 100 down to elevation 1,000, there's a lot of bad things that start to happen. So we're paying attention to that, not that we weren't before, but we're paying particular attention to it now to make sure that we're looking at the steps we can take to try to protect those reservoirs, protect the elevations, not use it all up at once and just run right through it. Just like your savings account at home. If you're out of a job for a while, it works for a bit to rely on your savings, but you're not gonna live the rest of your life off your savings.
You said a lot of bad things can happen. Can you describe what that picture would look like?
Sure. When you get down to elevation 1,000 or below elevation 1,000 in Mead, right now there are questions about whether Southern Nevada would be able to withdraw water at all. That means potentially the city of Las Vegas going dry. As most people say, particularly the people in Las Vegas, the Secretary of the Interior is not going to let that happen. When you get down to 1,000 feet in Mead, there's less than 4.3 million acre feet left in storage. That's less than what California uses in 1 year, let alone Arizona and Nevada or Mexico. When you get down at 1,000, the generators, first of all, they can't generate anywhere near the electricity they can when the lake is higher, and they're also going to start having problems with vibration and potential damage to the power plant. There's an awful lot of people in the Southwest that depend on the power generator to Hoover Dam.
So that sounds troubling to me. People might be wondering, okay, how do we replenish this water source unless it rains? What are our options?
Well, the first and easiest is if it snows in the upper basin. If we get a lot of snow in Wyoming, Colorado. In fact, we're working to help that. For a number of years, we've been involved with the state of Wyoming, state of Colorado, state of Utah on weather modification programs. It's a fancy name, but it's really cloud seeding in the upper basin. And those programs have been successful, that we're looking to expand them, make them larger. They're not the solution to everything, but they help. One of the things that we did back in 2007 is we put in rules to apply to the Colorado River in the lower basin to call for reductions in deliveries, so that when we get to certain elevations in Lake Mead, and it doesn't start at 1,000, it starts a lot higher, at elevation 1075. It's about 25 feet below where we are now. When we get to 1075, we start reducing the deliveries in the lower basin. And as Lake Mead goes down further, we reduce them even more. So the hope is, and the plan was, that those reductions would help slow the descent or the decline of Lake Mead. We're not sure now, the drought has continued, if those reductions are going to be enough to stop the eventual decline. So we're looking at additional things that we can do. In the last few years, the Central Arizona Project has worked with its partners in California and Nevada to build a reservoir in California to store water that otherwise would have flowed out of the end of the system. We work to operate the human desalting plant on a one-year basis, a pilot run to save about 30,000 acre feet. We've partnered now, we're in the process of developing an agreement to pool money and effect conservation through the basin that would accrue to the benefit of the reservoir. So not water that somebody's going to use and take out, but water that would actually go to benefit the system. So all these things and more that are on the way, I think, will hopefully help change the course of things.
I'm concerned listening to this, but people don't think that way right now because it's a pretty healthy picture. But what are some of the things we can start doing now to prepare for that time period? Is it 10 years away? Is it 30 years away? How far are we talking?
Well, it's important too to kind of get into the picture of what it means for CAP and its customers, because within the Central Arizona Project system, we have our own priority scheme. And when we get to that shortage, those first levels of reduction, they're not going to affect the cities. They're not going to affect our municipal deliveries, our private water companies, the cities that provide water to their citizens. So we don't see that happening for 10, 15 years or more. And even when that does happen, we've got the Arizona Water Banking Authority. That's what we've been storing water underground for the last almost 20 years for that very purpose, so that when we get to shortage, when we get to the point where deliveries to the cities would otherwise be reduced, we call on the water that we stored underground to make it up, so that if we've done our jobs, the cities, the citizens of Central Arizona don't see a reduction in their water supply.
They won't notice the difference.
Even though the system itself is in trouble, and we're doing things to help preserve the system and make it stronger, but I want to make sure that it's clear that the people that depend on the Central Arizona Project water, not all of them are going to get that, because there are going to be shortages. They're going to affect agricultural users primarily, but not the citizens.
The Bureau of Reclamation manages water in the West. Lake Mead on the Colorado River is the country's largest reservoir, but the water level continues to drop. Jennifer McClosky from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
If you would start by explaining what the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation actually means for the Southwest, what its role is.
So the Bureau of Reclamation, we manage the Colorado River, and that is basically the lifeblood of what we have here in Arizona and throughout the Southwest. My role with the Bureau of Reclamation is to manage the Colorado River. We manage all of the water delivery to the water right holders. We manage the river as an asset as well. We actually have the river channel that we're responsible for, providing flood control. And we work in partnership with all of the water users on the river, taking a look at our water supplies for the future and working on finding solutions to help us respond to the drought situation that we're facing on the river. We're actually in a 14-year drought on the Colorado River, the most severe that we've had in record keeping. And so we're having to work very much in concert and partnership with all the water users to find solutions for our future.
In your role with reclamation, you work in Arizona, New Mexico, and California. What does the picture look like for Arizona?
So Arizona has a 2.8 million acre foot allocation on the Colorado River. The other users on the river, California, they have a 4.4 million acre foot allocation, and then Nevada is also a participant in that, but also the country of Mexico. We serve underneath a treaty, a water treaty with Mexico. We actually deliver 1.5 million acre foot, so they're a key component. When it comes to looking at Arizona's future, we have senior water right holders and junior water right holders within the state of Arizona. The agriculture users are primarily your senior water right holders, and they will continue to receive their water through the drought and through the declining reservoirs. The Central Arizona Project, however, which is the key supplier to Phoenix and the Tucson area, the municipal area, would actually have to take a reduction in the amount of water supply off of the Colorado River should certain elevations at Lake Mead be met. So we're working together within the state partnership context to try to keep that shortage declaration at bay, essentially, so that we can make sure that there isn't the necessity to have to reduce the amount that CAP would have to take would have to take in the future. The state of Arizona, of course, is also working on contingency plans as well, and making sure that should those kind of conditions present themselves, that there are other backup supplies and other means by which to continue to meet needs. But I think it's important, as the average citizen, the average user of water, that we are conscientious of the amount of water that we're using and the role that each of us has in this drought condition and in these declining water supplies that we're dealing with.
You mentioned these acre feet. If you would, can you maybe explain what that means? Like, how many gallons are we talking? I think people often wonder, what exactly does that mean?
Right, so an acre foot is essentially a football field covered 1 foot in water. So that would equal 1 acre foot of water. In terms of magnitude, the city of Tucson's using somewhere around 90,000 acre feet of water, I believe is the amount, just for point of reference.
It sounds like we're in a good place to be, considering this is Arizona and we are in a drought. That's a testament to the water management from like the reclamation or CAP. Is that correct?
Well, there are a lot of very smart engineers who have worked on this system for the years, everything dating back from 1938 when we built Hoover Dam, and the Lake Mead Reservoir that we have today that supplies us our water and has been getting us through this drought. So the forefathers that came before us have put tremendous ingenuity into developing a delivery system, developing a water management system that is helping us through these tough times and helping us through this drought situation. And we learn from our past and looking towards the future in terms of water conservation, and again, working together as a community to manage our water supplies and create the opportunity for sustaining our future.
To other news now, the legislature wrestled with next year's budget and this week sent its draft to Governor Brewer. She had asked for $33 million to fund district-sponsored charter schools. The legislature, though, came up with about 75%. Some say shortchanging schools. Here's Doug Price, the superintendent of the Tanque Verde Unified School District, a district that converted its largest elementary school to charter status just last year.
We knew that and really believed in the philosophy that what makes our school special is that it's the relationships that we build, but having a character education program that would also support the new Arizona College and Career Readiness Standards, and then also all the issues dealing with school safety. We just saw this as a good way, as a catalyst for us to bring those programs in enrichment as far as our STEM programs, and then this character education program, to make sure that we could fully fund that and then move forward with all the other initiatives that we're facing.
What would you like the legislators to know, to gain from this conversation?
Well, it's really about choice, and they've created, Arizona has the most choice as far as schools are concerned, and I think they've been successful in that. It's about accountability. We're not hesitant about either one of those things, that we believe that if we can build a product in our schools that becomes attractive to people, and that it really does turn out citizens, strong, well-educated citizens, that's important. And so the accountability issues, we welcome them. As far as the competition, that's fine. That is, if you're in Arizona, that is where we are right now. We're in this corporate look at really public education. So as we do that and you accept those as the ground rules, it should be that we're not working against each other. It shouldn't be that we're politicizing these matters. We really ought to enrich those opportunities. Public education has been a strength, and we are competitive. I think that we're and accountable, and I think we'll continue to be so. We just don't want it to be an us-them. We'd rather join in the conversation and think of this abundantly rather than in scarcity. So that's what I would say to them. At some point, we're not the enemy. We really do want to reach out. We want to make it fair. We don't want to play victim, and we don't want them to play victim. It really gets down to, can we sit down and talk about not making this a political football, if you will. We're down to the last day talking about $33 million in a $12 billion budget. It just doesn't seem right that at some point we can do better than that.
Do charter schools have a future in your district? Does this Tanque Verde Elementary, will it stay there?
The way that this picture is painted right now, I don't know. I really don't know what will happen, and that's part of what my frustration is that as we look forward, what we're seeing is the way they're painting it is they're painting you out of the picture. If that's the case, then we have to relook at our school in regards to what's going to happen not just in this next year. We're trying to build a 2-year budget. So if we boom up on one case and then have to boom down dramatically in another, how do we bring that to some sort of homeostasis? How do we bring that to some sort of balance? And that's really going to be our issue, is how we do that. So how the district's sponsored charter schools play out in the law the way it's written now, we'd have to make some sort of, I imagine, some sort of dramatic choice or a planned choice of either staying in or staying out. If we stay in, then there may be this risk of not receiving any funds. And I don't mean they can't not fund it. So we're trying to figure out what would be the vehicle.
Ultimately, it's the children who you think would be impacted by this.
Well, yeah, obviously. It isn't a trite statement. It really is. We're trying to put money into programs that will really enrich. Our board has this philosophy that it's their job to build capacity. And so we're really looking at all the assets that we possibly can to bring to the table. In our district, it's about an 80-20 split. 80% of our money goes to people, 20% goes to program. And we try to keep that balance. And so the more you have to pour into people to keep really good programs, then there's less money for the programs. And so if you move beyond that 80-20 split, it gets to be a bit dangerous, because then when there are some severe cuts or there are some bad times, then you're truly cutting people. And not only just people, but with them in our small district, it's those programs go away too. And who's affected? Those kids, because in a smaller district, you build those relationships, and that's what we're all about. And so it's keeping people, gives it a face, those students feel safe, and they're bonded with those folks, and that's what we want. So it's our job to, as a small district, try to be as nimble as possible, try to be as big as we can, but relational as we possibly can. So it gets to be that small districts, I believe, try to make themselves big in operation and opportunity, and at the same time try to keep themselves small in making sure that our relationships are really top-notch, that they're genuine. So as we move forward, the kids are the ones that are, and it really is the community, because it's the students in the community that I think suffer when education suffers. If you don't have good schools, then property values and some of those things can be affected. People don't want to be in those parts. You get more crime around schools that are vacant and those things, and so we don't want to have those kinds of things. We really want to think abundantly, and so when it gets down to finance, we're not a victim of it. We just want to join in the process, in a process that we believe makes some sense for everybody.
The Vail Unified School District has 7 charter schools. Superintendent Calvin Baker has been a champion of the idea. He says the impending cuts to charter funding can change the landscape of a school community. So cutting the funding, what does that do to those 7 schools moving forward?
Well, the cut in funding is only for the newer charter schools. So the 4 older schools will be able to maintain, at least under current legislation. We don't know what will be cut next year. So what it means is that the money that we're receiving is A, not as much as we thought it would be, and second, B, it's temporary. So we cannot use that money for reoccurring costs. We can't use it to do a program that we expect to continue because it is scheduled to go away.
Explain to viewers what the difference is for the schools, the charter schools you have in your district and the ones that do not have the charter status. Where's the real difference there?
We've been doing charter schools for 18 years, and we got into doing charter schools because it allowed us to do some different things. The rules are different for charter schools. There's more freedom with charter schools. There's also some losses, like we can't do attendance boundaries anymore once we do it for a school once it's converted. And then over the years, the legislature has slowly on increased funding for charter schools at a much faster rate than regular public schools. So they have, in essence, incentivized chartering schools. So that is what we have done, because it allows us then to compete on the market for kids and parents. And that's the way the system has been designed by the legislature.
You mentioned this meeting with your principals. How do you sort of rally the troops moving forward? What are you telling them? What do they want to hear from you?
Well, it's like any loss, and it is a loss. First, it has to be absorbed, and then we'll figure out what to do. But it doesn't work right after you smash your car. You don't go, oh, it's going to be great. First, you spend some time going, this is terrible. And then you go, all right, I got to figure out a way to get into the shop, and I got to find money to get it fixed. And we'll figure out a way to keep moving forward, because that's what we do. I think what is so discouraging is that our staff have delivered exactly what we've asked. Our scores are among the top in the state, and we're doing, every week we have people coming from across the state, outside of the state, to look at our programs. So they're doing what we're asking, and in the last 5 years we've given them a raise one time. We're losing some of our best people.
What do you want the legislature to know about what's happening at ground zero of the education in the Vail District?
Clearly there's a shift, and not just in Arizona, but across the country, towards market-driven education. And we're okay with that. We believe in choice. We have no attendance boundaries for our high schools. Parents choose. But we want to be in the game. We don't want to be on the sidelines. In essence, what the Arizona legislature is doing is they're making it possible for charter schools to compete at a higher level than school districts.
There are some legislators who have said that this is just ballooned out of control.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond to those sorts of comments?
It's important to understand that the law regarding district-sponsored charter schools has not changed since it was first implemented about 18 years ago. So the accusation that we all of a sudden found a loophole and now we're exploiting this loophole is totally bogus. If there was a loophole, there would have been a loophole 18 years ago. What has simply changed is that the legislature has incentivized charter schools, and we have responded to that incentive. When we incentivize, for example, in our own system, a teacher getting additional education, a master's degree, for example, and the teacher goes out and gets a master's degree, we don't say, oh, you found a loophole in our pay system. We go, well, that's great. That's exactly what we wanted. That's why we offered the incentive. So we are, in essence, responding to the incentive to do unique, innovative, successful things. We're not looking to replicate things that don't work. We have proven systems that we know bring absolutely top results. We would like to replicate those and shine and polish and tune those, not decrease them because our funding has shrunk.
And joining me to talk about charter funding and the overall picture of what's happening at the Capitol is my colleague, Christopher Conover. Christopher, thanks for your time today.
Absolutely.
So charter funding, we hear, it's an emotional issue. This is something that's frustrating.
It is, and it was a big fight in the budget. Senate President Andy Biggs wanted to zero fund charter schools, not as a whole, but the ones created by school districts. This actually held up the budget for a couple of weeks. The House wanted $33 million, Andy Biggs wanted $0. They compromised and came out with about $25 million, which continues that program for one more year. So yes, it's a very emotional issue. It was one of the big things that held up the budget this year.
Okay, also big budget issues, what was formerly known as CPS, the Child Welfare Agency. Where do we stand on that now?
Where we stand on that is we're going to have to come back and deal with it. The legislature in the budget put in what they call intent language. They intend to fund a new agency, but the new agency hasn't been created yet, so they really didn't put a lot of money into it. They want to see how the agency gets created. They're going to come back most likely in May. Everyone's thinking they're going to finish up work in the next week or so, and the governor will call them into a special session sometime in May to create that agency and fix the budget as part of that.
How likely is she to stay very firm on the numbers that she wants, the staff that she wants?
My guess is she's going to stay fairly firm. Everything in politics is a compromise, so there's going to be some back and forth, but this is her last year in office. This is a legacy piece. She wants to at least get it partially fixed or in motion to be fixed before she leaves office, so she's going to stand fairly firm.
A couple other things that came out, funding for universities, and also you had mentioned abortion.
Exactly. Funding for universities. There was $786 million for the 3 universities. The University of Arizona in particular wanted $15 million for research, bipartisan effort to get them that money because it's seen as an economic generator. They got none of it. So the universities did not get all that they wanted. Big issue this week at the Capitol was abortion. It was a bill that allows SNAP or surprise inspections of abortion clinics, which previously were not allowed. Both houses passed it basically on party line votes. It's now to the governor. We're just waiting for her action on that.
And there's some privacy issues on that note.
There are privacy issues. That's why they've always required warrants before this for privacy issues. But backers of it say it's the only medical clinic in Arizona that can't have a surprise inspection. That's why they want it changed.
And the legislature put forth a budget fairly early in session here. The hope is to maybe get out early then?
That is the hope. The 26th of April is the 100th day of the legislative session. Senate President Andy Biggs told his members at the end of the week, expect a long few days next week, which means they're really getting close to wrapping up. Predictions are ranging from sometime next week to late the week after, but probably before that 100-day mark they will finish.
Okay, it'll be a busy next few weeks here.
Sure will.
Okay, Christopher Conover, thank you so much. And that's our program tonight. For all of us here at Arizona Week, I'm Lorraine Luvetta. Thanks for joining us.